with a physical altercation with an employee at Walgreens on Rosa L. Parks Boulevard Sunday night. Dupree is to report for booking on the citation in 3 weeks. Emily Proud joins us now on 104.5 The Zone. Hello, friend.
Hello. You say you had the incredible foresight. That's smart stuff. You guys are smart. Give yourself some credit.
Well, listen, it's dumb luck. We're always grateful for your presence around here, but this is something that I know you've been keeping close tabs on since I believe Scoop Nashville first had the report of an altercation taking place that Dupree and some people around him were involved in. What more do we know right now, Emily, than we do then?
Yeah, so he is officially being charged. That was something that is a major difference from yesterday, and I think why a lot of Titans fans were thinking, why is this even a thing? He's not being charged with anything. So essentially what had to happen is they had to gather all the information. So yesterday he was wanted for questioning about this event so they could gather all the evidence and make sure that when they delivered it to the prosecutor, the district attorney, Glenn Funk, so he could see it, figure out all that information, and decide whether or not he wanted to, press charges for this. And so they have officially gone through it, and this is them and the charge that they have come forward with. But there's still kind of a little bit to be ironed out in terms of, Bud Dupree's exact involvement, how extreme it is. And I know everybody wants to know what this means in terms of the NFL. But it is important to note that it is a misdemeanor, which is a major, difference between being charged with something criminal. That's considerably worse, and that's usually something that the NFL takes more seriously as a criminal charge versus a misdemeanor charge.
Correct. And we, neither of us claim to be legal experts, but misdemeanor assault legally is more akin to a slap on the wrist, and the NFL, I don't imagine, is going to completely derail their top seed in the AFC's playoff hopes by causing this guy to miss time, especially if he does not have to report for another 3 weeks, according to your tweet, Em.
Yes, and something also important to note is it's under kind of the umbrella of assault, but more specifically, he's being charged with assault, fear of bodily injury. And that's something that's super important because that doesn't necessarily mean that Bud Dupree injured the victim. What it means is that there was fear of injury, which is an important distinction when it comes to the NFL, because I know that they take assault charges in particular very seriously, where this is more fear of assault because, a huge human being is coming at you and assaulting you. So this doesn't necessarily mean that Bud Dupree injured the victim to a serious level or even if at all. And so that could be an important distinction too when the NFL decides if they want to act on this.
Emily Proud of WKRN News 2 is here with us on 104.5 The Zone. She has she and among other outlets are reporting the citation issued for Bud Dupree, misdemeanor assault in connection with this physical altercation that took place at the Walgreens on Rosa L. Parks Sunday night. We are discussing it right now. So at this point, Emily, I don't know if you have done this. I have requested a statement from the Titans. I'm sure many people are requesting statements from them. So we will update people with that as soon as humanly possible. Have you heard from the team yet?
No, we have not, but we have also requested that information as well. So TBD. Yesterday, though, we did find out, and I'm sure you guys all heard this too, that the Titans were aware of it. So this was something that they were looking into and probably preparing for in the interim.
Oh, no, certainly. And this is just to kind of give people context. I got a couple of texts about this last night, about the video of Bud Dupree's incident. Apparently, it is out there. I've not been able to track it down specifically, but there has been discussions about this internally, that there was video evidence, certainly something that would need to be vetted before it was brought to the forefront. Obviously, Titans are off today, and we'll talk to assistant coaches later on via Zoom, but Mike Vrabel won't speak to the media tomorrow. I don't know what they do at this point other than a wait and see approach to see if the NFL takes any action with this.
Yeah, that's obviously the big question mark, I know, among fans. I would say, I don't want to jinx anything necessarily. I don't know if it's possible in this situation, but I'm not too majorly concerned. This seems like something where even, although I said that, he has to appear in 3 weeks. Technically, depending on how they decide to go about this, he might not himself even have to show up in front of a judge. This could be something as simple as his attorney going there on his behalf and paying some sort of fine. So it really is minor. It's something where, I hate to say this, but if it weren't a Titans player, we probably would not be paying that close attention to it. It is a very minor charge, especially the fact that it was an assault fear of bodily injury. That's an important distinction, and not necessarily that he seriously injured somebody. Obviously, attacking anybody in any realm, not a good idea, not okay, but that's something that I think is a very important distinction, and that it wasn't any sort of serious injury. But as you said with the video situation, it was over a video. So yeah, you're kind of waiting for that other shoe to drop where you get some sort of video. We have also requested the 911 call, which could hopefully provide some clarity in terms of what the actual situation was like, how it was provoked, that sort of thing. And so still a lot of information to learn so far about this. And I have a feeling that in me saying this is something similar that the Titans will say too, is they're still working to learn some information.
Yeah, well, at this point, and a lot of people are letting out a sigh of some relief, I'm sure. If obviously you don't want anybody on your football team, if you're a fan, involved in a situation like this, but it does appear to be on the minor side, if it is on the minor side of things. Emily Proud here with us on 104.5 The Zone. Em, with this story, because of where it originated, I was, from my standpoint, you obviously follow up, and I'm curious to know what you're reporting this out looked like, because I think with something like this, you mentioned Bud Dupree. If it wasn't a Titans player, we probably wouldn't be making or wouldn't be discussing it at this length. But of course, on the original story, that was the way that it was positioned, and it put Bud in a position to make it seem like he was the one physically assaulting a Walgreens employee before this had been vetted out. How careful were you with something like this when you know what the results ultimately are in retrospect, and how it's borne out to be less than what it initially appeared?
Yeah, well, when it comes to something early on in the process, typically we err on the side of caution, and I will err on the side of extra caution and just use whatever, Metro Nashville Police gives us, or what somebody from a government body gives us, just because their phrasing, although it's a lot of legal jargon and it's kind of over your head and it's not as simple as saying this is what happened and this happened in easy plain English, that's kind of how you save yourself from any sort of making it seem like you're trying to push it in a certain direction, or you're trying to imply something that might not have happened. And so it's best to just try to keep it simple. And I know too, with my tweet yesterday, typically something that we do in sports, it's something that we do all the time, is, from an initial report, you cite back that first report to give that person credit for having it first. And then if you have it as well, that's what you're there to clarify. And I know that there's some, I would say, mixed feelings around the Scoop Nashville site in particular, but technically they did have it first, and I think that that's what's important from a news station standpoint is, you see somebody with a previous report that could be and is damning to somebody's reputation, then what you want to do is you want to go independently and internally vet it and see that if it's true or if it's false, and try to get that information. So I could have just left it and ignored it and say it's not a big deal. But I also think it's important to clarify too, from that standpoint, okay, this did happen. No charges have been filed yet. We're still working to learn more information. But it's worse to have wrong information and misinformation there than to not have any sort of information. And so that's why it's important to kind of clarify and to provide that info, because if something's just circulating out of the internet, and you don't have, any sort of confirmation on it, that can almost be worse than whatever the confirmation is and whatever the truth is.